Human resource planning requires forecasting the demand of the workforce in an organization. Depending upon what the organization wants to do in future, it is necessary to know the requirement of the manpower. Now, how can this demand be forecast? It can be done in two different ways, which one is judgmental, which are the subjective ways, and statistical, which are the objective ways. As we understand, the judgmental ways are more qualitative methods and the statistical ones are the more quantitative methods. With the help of these methods, the human resource managers will be able to forecast the demand of the human resources of an organization. Now, this demand will be dependent upon the long-term plan of the organization and the strategy of the organization. Therefore, whether a subjective method will be used or an objective method will be used will depend upon the plan of the organization for the future, the kind of the organization and its position in the industry, the life cycle in which the organization is presently, and the expertise of the human resource manager. Managerial judgment, Delphi technique, and nominal group methods are all judgmental and subjective methods of forecasting demand. At the same time, trend analysis, time series analysis, workload analysis, productivity analysis, work study and method study are all statistical quantitative methods in which the demand for employees of an organization can be forecast. We find that the supply of the organization has to be matched with the demand of the organization. The supply basically means the inventory of the human resources that is presently within an organization. The supply can be thought of in terms of people who are currently existing in the organization, who are the employees of the organization. Now, who are the employees? How can they be used? What skills do they have that can be used to meet the demand that has been forecast so far through judgmental or statistical ways? The supply of the employees in the organization can also be forecast with the help of judgmental or subjective and statistical or objective methods. Judgmental or subjective methods, which are basically qualitative methods, can be done through executive reviews, through a succession planning and vacancy analysis. There are a number of objective quantitative methods which enable an organization to forecast the supply of manpower. How many people are currently working? How many people will continue to work in this organization 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 2 years from now is what is calculated through these methods using the Markov matrix, using wastage analysis, labor turnover, stability index, cohort analysis, half-life cycle analysis, length of service analysis, renewal models, optimization models, Cambridge models, Monte Carlo simulation, and replacement theory. These various methods enable the human resource manager to know how many people will be available in the next few years' time for the purpose of meeting the organizational objectives. As we proceed, we have to understand the action plan involved in human resource planning. If I may summarize, human resource planning is basically finding out the skills available to the employees in the organization, calculating the skills required by the organization for its future plans, matching this demand with the supply, as a result of which, when demand exceeds supply, there is shortage, and that is a comparatively simple solution. On the other hand, when supply of manpower exceeds demand of manpower, there is a surplus, and these are the suggested action plans under the two situations. In case of surplus, what an organization can do is it can freeze hire, it can consider layoff, it can consider giving incentives for retirement, it can proceed with transferring out of one department where there is a surplus, it may reduce its overtime or part-time workers so that the actual surplus matches the demand and the number of existing employees match the demand of the employees and their skills. On the other hand, in case there is a shortage of a particular skill among the workers as matching to the demand, the steps to be taken are to recruit new employees with that required skill, to transfer into this department from any other department of the organization employees with that required skill, to outsource. That is one of the most contemporary ways of handling shortage of skills, to outsource organizations' activities to a separate organization, to consider employees in terms of overtime and part-time workers. This brings us to the final action of the human resource planning stage, at the end of which we will discuss job analysis. As I mentioned in the beginning, that human resource planning considers of job analysis, human resource information system, matching the demand and supply, and taking the action plan. Job analysis is the process used to collect information about the duties, responsibilities, necessary skills, outcomes of a particular job. So job analysis is basically a process of collecting information. As a result of this process of collecting information, two documents emerge. One is called the job description and the other is called job specification. Job description is a very important document. It gives details about the organization's requirement of the employees in terms of what is the authority the employee needs to have, what work should the employee be able to do. Job specification is more detailed, which talks about the human qualifications required to perform a job. A statement of qualification, traits, characteristics that the employee must possess is written in the job specification. So if I may repeat, job analysis is the process which gives the two documents, job description and job specification. Next, we go over to the second function that we talk about in human resource management, which is recruitment and selection. Before we proceed with recruitment and selection, it is important for us to understand that as a result of human resource planning, we know how many skills, what skills, at what levels, at which workplace is required for the organization. Only when there is excess of demand over supply do we need to go over this step. What we mean by excess of demand over supply is there is a requirement for manpower. This requirement of manpower is met by recruitment and selection. So this function of human resource management comes about only when there is excess demand for a particular skill within the organization. Now, recruitment is the process of attracting sufficient number of applicants for the potential job. Recruitment is objected to getting competent employees who will assist the employees existing in the organization in the fulfillment of the objectives. On the other hand, selection is the process of choosing from these applicant pool. Therefore, recruitment and selection are two phases of the employment process. We need to understand the difference between the two. Recruitment talks about searching for the candidates for employing them and encouraging them to apply for jobs in the organization. It talks about creating a talent pool which will enable the selection to be good. It talks about attracting more and more employees to apply for this organization. It is basically a positive process which encourages more employees, prospective employees to apply. On the other hand, selection involves a series of steps by which the candidates are screened to get the most valuable candidate through interviews and tests. The purpose of the selection is to get the right candidate, and therefore it's more a method of elimination, and hence if recruitment is positive, the more the better. The selection is negative because it involves rejection of the unsuitable candidates. So in a way, we can say that recruitment brings about a large number of people, whereas selection tries to minimize the number of people and aim at the most appropriate employee. Recruitment, as we can understand, is trying to bring about a number of applicants. So where will we go ahead with recruitment? The different sources of recruitment are internal and external. Internal recruitment is done when the employees of the same organization are promoted, and this is more of a motivational activity, so that people who are working for a long time in the organization, people who are capable, are motivated to be promoted to higher positions. When employees see their co-workers being promoted, it is ensured that they are motivated and they look for this as a career opportunity. However, when a person is promoted from one level to another, it creates a gap, and this former position will have to be filled. The organization, by going in for internal recruitment, loses out the opportunity of recruiting from outside, which means it loses out on bringing about new ideas and creativity that can come from a new person who comes from an external source. External recruitment, on the other hand, therefore, involves attracting employees from different other organizations, maybe similar to this industry. However, external recruitment is dependent upon the labor market conditions. When the economy is strong, it is difficult to go about external recruitment. When the economy is weak, there are many applicants, so external recruitment is easy. As we go ahead, we understand this concept of external recruitment and internal recruitment. External recruitment, if we may summarize, is attracting a talent pool from people who are not your present employees, who are employees of other organizations in the same or similar industry. On the other hand, internal recruitment is the way to promote, motivate employees within an organization to fill a needed position. Internal recruitment has certain advantages and disadvantages, which are, if we go ahead with advantages first, it is inexpensive because you do not have to advertise for it. You just have to announce for the post, and response arrives faster and in greater quantity, because the news about the internal recruitment or promotion can be spread to all applicants just through an internal computer network. Some selection tests are administered through the computers which are in-house as it is, and therefore it is very easy to go ahead with this internal recruitment process. The disadvantages are, of course, that it is though very easy to get a lot of applicants, but unnecessarily a lot of not very qualified applicants may come into the pool. And when they are not selected, it does lead a moment of disharmony. It does lead some dissatisfaction among the present employees. As we go ahead with this discussion on recruitment, we need to understand the external recruitment sources. If internal recruitment sources are present employees, external recruitment sources are the way to get outside employees from similar or same industry. The best way to get them is through employee referrals and recommendations. This is a cheap, soft, and fast method. But then this does not enable the organization to get a very good coverage. Only the referrals bring about the external recruits. Therefore, to solve this problem of not getting enough exposure, the organization can go ahead and advertise in newspaper or in different other media. There are private and state employment agencies. There are executive search firms for higher positions which have to be filled. There are professional associations which go about advertising the necessary vacancies in a particular association through a particular trade. This carries on, which may be done through virtual recruitment, which is the contemporary method now, through internships and in-campus placements for the fresh entry of graduates straight from college to the organizations. And all this, irregardless, the organization can choose just to advertise and go in straight for walk-ins for the purpose of external recruitment. Whether it is external source of recruitment or internal, the selection methods are important because it enables the organization to choose the most appropriate employee with the desirable knowledge, skills, and attitudes. To begin with, the simplistic form of selection is the interview method. Interviews can be structured, unstructured, individual, panel, sequential, or even in today's days, virtual. By structured interviews, we mean that there are a list of questions that the interviewer asks the interviewee. By unstructured questions or unstructured interview, we mean that there is no specific outline in which the interview will be conducted. It depends upon the current understanding about the job and about the requirement in the job as far as the employer is concerned. There are situations where there are individual interviews when one person takes the interview of another person. On the other hand, there could be a panel interview where more than one, maybe 3-4 people together take the interview of one person. Thirdly, there could be another type which is sequential, that is, an interviewee appears for an interview in room 1, goes over to another interview in room 2, goes over to another interview in room 3, and the objective of interviews in each of the rooms are different. Finally, the most modern day method of interview is the virtual method, which says that it is not necessary that it is face-to-face with physical mobility of people all over the world. The applicant could be based in any part of the world and could be recruited in any other part of the world. Therefore, interviews through Skype and FaceTime and such virtual other media is possible. The advantage of conducting an interview is to provide the opportunity for questions from both parties to understand a realistic view of the job and describe the job and the organization to the interviewee. It enables face-to-face encounters, and both the interviewer and the interviewee he tries to gather whether the job and the organization and the prospective employee are good fits. There are, however, disadvantages of interviews also, because a brief interview period is not able to always explicitly presume what the performance of the job will be. It is not always correctly possible to estimate how an employee will perform on the job by evaluating him for 5, 10, or 15 minutes only. Besides interview, there are other selection tests, which may be psychological tests, which are scientifically designed. And these enable the employer to understand much more in detail about the intelligence, the capability, the attitude of the employee, which is shown through the personality and the aptitude tests. These are scientific instruments, and hence the human error that may arise in a simple interview is removed.